The false victory. Admiral Vector of the Sarkin Empire stood on the command bridge of the Dominion, his flagship and pride of the Imperial fleet. Through the massive viewport, the blue-green world hung suspended against the backdrop of endless stars. Earth, the homeworld of humanity, looked peaceful from orbit, a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded during the past 3 months of conflict. "Status report," Vector demanded, his voice carrying across the silent bridge. His scaled skin shimmered under the ambient lighting, 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he awaited response. Commander Trell, his second-in-command, approached with a formal bow. "Victory is complete, Admiral. Human orbital defenses have been neutralized. Their military command centers have fallen silent. Ground forces report minimal resistance in all major population centers." Vector's mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his species. "Casualties? Minimal, sir. Far below projections. Their resistance collapsed more quickly than our intelligence suggested it would." The Admiral turned his attention back to Earth. Something didn't feel right. The Sarkin Empire had fought many species across 12 star systems over its 1,000-year expansion. None had fallen so easily, especially not after initial encounters suggested humans were resourceful, adaptable fighters. "What of their fleet?" Vector asked. "Scattered or destroyed," Trell reported. "The majority of their ships attempted defensive formations around their orbital installations. They were predictable in their tactics." Vector's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of doubt among his kind. "Too predictable," he muttered. "These are the same humans who ambushed our exploration fleet at Proxima Centauri. The same tacticians who lured our forces into the asteroid field at Taw Ceti. Perhaps they exhausted their ingenuity, Admiral," Trell suggested. "Or our superior numbers finally overwhelmed them." "Perhaps," Vector conceded, though unconvinced. "Begin occupation protocols. I want control centers established in all major cities within the next rotation." And Trell: "Yes, Admiral. Double our scanner suites. Something feels incomplete." 300 meters below the surface of what had once been Chicago, General Maya Chen studied holographic displays of Sarkin fleet movements. The command center was crowded with the remaining leadership of Earth's defense forces, haggard, exhausted, but far from defeated. "Sarkin patrols have established control of all major metropolitan areas," reported Colonel Jackson, pointing to red-highlighted sections of the global map. "They're broadcasting victory announcements on all frequencies." Chen nodded calmly. "And Operation Exodus?" A different officer stepped forward, Lieutenant Commander Reyes, her uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's Space Command. "The last colonial transport cleared the solar system 8 hours ago, General. All stealth systems functioning properly. No indication the Sarkins detected any departures." A collective exhalation of relief filled the room. Chen allowed herself a small smile. "The first in months. 3 billion civilians evacuated," she said softly, "plus all essential scientific, cultural, and military personnel. And our industrial capacity. Completely transferred off-world," Rice confirmed. "The Mars shipyards were dismantled and transported to Proxima as planned. The asteroid belt facilities self-destructed after evacuation." Chen walked to the central command table, where a 3-dimensional representation of Earth hovered. With a gesture, the image expanded to show the entire solar system. Then several nearby star systems where tiny blue dots indicated human presence. "What the Sarkins don't realize," she told the assembled officers, "is that they've conquered a shell. A distraction. They believe they've seen the full measure of humanity's strength." She paused, her eyes hardening. "They haven't even glimpsed it." Colonel Jackson cleared his throat. "General, do we have confirmation about the Arcturus shipyards?" Chen nodded. "Admiral Winters reports they're fully operational. The first wave of Aurora-class battleships began production 3 weeks ago." The room fell silent as the implications set in. For 2 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. Ever since their deep space probes detected the Sarkin Armada moving toward Earth, What followed wasn't blind panic, but the most ambitious strategic withdrawal in human history. "Begin Phase 2, Chen ordered. "All remaining cells initiate shadow protocols. Minimal engagement, maximum intelligence gathering. I want to know everything about their technology, their command structure, their weaknesses, and the timeline." "General," Rise asked, "Admiral Winters projects 3 years until we're ready for the counteroffensive. 3 years to build our real fleet. 3 years to prepare the colonies." Chen's gaze swept across the room. 3 years before the Sarkans learn what it truly means to face humanity. On the 12th day of occupation, Admiral Vector walked through the abandoned streets of what had once been Paris. Coalition troops had secured the area weeks ago, but something felt profoundly wrong. "Where are the humans?" he asked the intelligence officer accompanying him. "Your initial population estimates suggested nearly 9 billion inhabitants on this world. Many fled to rural areas after our orbital strikes." "Admiral," the officer replied, "others may be hiding in underground structures. Our scans detect approximately 3 billion life signs planet-wide." Vector stopped abruptly. 3 billion out of 9. The casualty rate in our bombardment was, the officer hesitated, higher than anticipated. 6 billion casualties. Vector hissed, his scales darkening with anger. "Impossible. Our strikes were precision-targeted at military installations. We did not conduct planetary bombardment." The intelligence officer shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps our population estimates were incorrect. But Vector wasn't convinced. In every previous conquest, the Sarkan Empire had encountered fierce resistance from indigenous populations. Humans had fought brilliantly in space, yet their ground resistance had been almost perfunctory. "Deploy subsurface scanners," he ordered suddenly. "I want every inch of this planet examined for underground structures. And increase orbital surveillance. Something is not right." In his private quarters aboard the Dominion that evening, Vector reviewed the latest reports with growing concern. The patterns didn't make sense. Human industrial capacity appeared to have been vastly overstated in pre-invasion assessments. Key manufacturing centers were found abandoned, some appearing to have been dismantled rather than destroyed. A chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. Commander Trell stepped inside, clearly disturbed. "Admiral, our scouts have discovered something unusual in the asteroid belt." "Show me." Trell activated a holographic display showing energy signature patterns. These were detected when we calibrated our sensors to search for human propulsion systems. Hundreds of warp signatures, all departing the solar system in different directions, dating back several months before our arrival. Vector rose so quickly his chair toppled behind him. "Why wasn't this detected earlier?" "The signatures were masked somehow, sir. Our standard protocols didn't register them." Cold realization washed over the Admiral as pieces of the puzzle snapped into place. The abandoned factories, the minimal resistance, the missing billions. "They knew we were coming," he whispered. "This wasn't their surrender, Commander. This was their evacuation." As if confirming his revelation, the ship's alert system suddenly activated. Emergency lights bathed the room in crimson. "Admiral, to the bridge immediately," came the urgent announcement over the intercom. When Vector arrived, chaos greeted him. Officers rushed between stations as alerts sounded throughout the ship. "Report," he demanded. The communications officer turned, her scales pale with shock. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. Hundreds of ships emerging from warp." "Sarkan reinforcements." "No, sir. The configurations are human, but nothing like what we've encountered before. These vessels are enormous." The main view screen activated, showing a fleet of sleek, menacing warships moving into formation. At their center, a vessel twice the size of the Dominion approached steadily. A message began broadcasting across all Sarkan frequencies, a simple text in the human language. This was only round one. Humanity unleashed. 3 years passed under Sarkan rule. Earth became a forward operating base for their empire, its resources gradually stripped to fuel further expansion. The remaining human population lived under strict control, permitted to work only in approved sectors. On the surface, the conquest appeared complete. Dr. Elena Frost adjusted her lab coat and nodded respectfully to the Sarkin guards as she entered the research facility. To them, she was Dr. Lan, a brilliant xenobiologist who had cooperated with the Empire after the invasion. Her scaled supervisor, Chief Scientist Meckler, trusted her implicitly. "Good morning, Dr. Lan," Meckler greeted, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of pleasure among Sarkins. "Your findings on human neural patterns were most illuminating." "Thank you, Chief Scientist," Elena replied with the customary bow. "I believe the applications could benefit Sarkin medicine significantly." What Meckler didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Elena Frost was humanity's most deeply embedded operative. Her real name wasn't even Frost. That identity had been created years before the invasion. Every day for 3 years, she had gathered intelligence on Sarkin biology, technology, and most crucially, their weaknesses. "I've granted you access to the central database for our next project," Meckler announced. "We'll be studying ways to improve Sarkin soldiers' resistance to radiation." Elena nodded, keeping her expression neutral while her mind raced. Central database access was exactly what she'd been working toward for months. "I'm honored by your trust," she said quietly. That night, deep within the Sarkin research facility, Elena worked alone in the central database chamber. With swift, practiced movements, she inserted a quantum drive into the system, technology the Sarkins didn't know humans possessed. The drive began transferring massive amounts of data while simultaneously uploading a carefully engineered virus. The virus wouldn't activate immediately. It would lie dormant, spreading throughout the Sarkin network, reaching their ships, their defense systems, their communications. When the time came, a single command would trigger it. Halfway around the world, in the ruins of Rio de Janeiro, James Rodriguez moved silently through the shadows. Once a major in Earth's special forces, now he led one of the planet's largest resistance cells. The night vision implanted in his left eye, technology the Sarkins had no knowledge of, showed him the patrol routes of alien soldiers. Rodriguez reached a section of collapsed building that looked like any other debris pile. He pressed his palm against a particular stone, and a scanner read his DNA. A hidden door slid open. Inside, dozens of resistance fighters worked at stations monitoring Sarkin communications, troop movements, and supply lines. They all stood at attention when he entered. "At ease," he said, moving to the central table where a holographic map showed Sarkin positions worldwide. "Report." His second-in-command, Sarah Diaz, stepped forward. "Message received from Deep Cover 1. Dr. Frost has secured central database access. Operation Trojan is live." A murmur of excitement ran through the room. For 3 years, they had worked toward this moment. "And our friends in the stars?" Rodriguez asked. "The Phoenix fleet is in position," Diaz replied, lowering her voice. "Admiral Chen reports all ships ready for Phase 3. Rodriguez nodded, satisfaction warming his expression. "Send the signal. Tell Chen the door is open." In the depths of space, beyond the detection range of Sarkin sensors, General Maya Chen, now Admiral, stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, humanity's largest warship. Around her vessel, hundreds of battleships, carriers, and destroyers floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with technology that had not existed when Earth fell. "Signal from Earth, Admiral," her communications officer reported. "Rodriguez says the door is open. Dr. Frost has uploaded the virus." Chen nodded, a tight smile forming on her lips. "Acknowledge the message and notify all ships. Operation Reckoning begins now." Throughout the massive fleet, lights changed from standby blue to combat red. Weapon systems powered up, and soldiers moved to their battle stations. "Lieutenant Commander Reyes," Chen called to her XO. Status of the advance teams. Rays approached with a tactical display. Sarkin outposts in the Rigel sector have been neutralized as planned. Their defenses were completely unprepared, and their response disorganized. They still haven't determined who attacked them. Chen studied the tactical display with satisfaction. For 3 years, humanity had built this fleet in secret, using resources from 24 star systems beyond Sarkin territory. At the same time, operatives like Alina Frost had infiltrated Sarkin operations, feeding them false information while gathering critical intelligence. Deploy the second wave, Chen ordered. Hit their supply lines in the Procyon system, then withdraw before reinforcements arrive. Yes, Admiral. Chen walked to the viewport, looking out at her fleet. Each vessel incorporated technology the Sarkins had never seen, designed specifically to counter their weapons and defense systems. It's time they learned who they're really fighting, she said quietly. On the Sarkin homeworld of Sarka Prime, Admiral Vector stood before the Imperial Council, his once proud posture now stiff with tension. Explain these attacks, demanded the High Counselor, her voice cold with anger. You assured us the humans were defeated. They were defeated, Vector insisted. The forces we faced at Earth were destroyed completely. Then who destroyed our mining operation in the Rigel sector? Another counselor shouted. Who decimated our outpost in the Procyon system? Vector hesitated, the reports in his hands trembling slightly. We believe it may be human forces we were unaware of. The council chamber erupted in outrage. As the shouting continued, Vector's communicator vibrated. He glanced down at the message and felt his blood run cold. High Council, he said, his voice cutting through the noise. I've just received word that our defense station in the Arcturus system has been destroyed. The attacking ships, they're definitely human in design, but far more advanced than anything we encountered at Earth. The room fell silent. How is this possible? The High Counselor asked finally. Before Vector could answer, every screen in the chamber activated simultaneously. A human face appeared, a woman with steel-gray eyes and the bearing of a commander. I am Admiral Maya Chen of the United Earth Fleet, she said, her voice calm but filled with determination. 3 years ago, you attacked our homeworld, believing you had measured the full extent of humanity's strength. Chen leaned closer to the camera. You were wrong. What you fought was only our delaying force while we evacuated our people and prepared our real military. Now, we're coming for you. The transmission cut off, leaving the Imperial Council in stunned silence. In orbit above their world, sensors began detecting hundreds of warp signatures approaching. The Sarkin defense fleet above Sarka Prime broke apart under the concentrated fire of human warships. Their weapons, technology that had remained hidden during the Earth invasion, cut through Sarkin shields as if they weren't there. Second wave, advance, Admiral Chen ordered from the bridge of the Phoenix. Focus fire on their orbital defense platforms. Lieutenant Commander Reyes nodded, relaying the commands to the fleet. On the main view screen, Sarkin vessels desperately tried to regroup, but their formations were in disarray. They're attempting to adapt their shields to our weapons, Admiral, reported the tactical officer. Chen smiled grimly. They won't succeed. Dr. Frost made sure of that. For 3 years, Alina Frost had secretly modified the Sarkin shield systems, introducing a subtle flaw in their design that made them vulnerable to the specific frequencies used by human weapons. It was a masterpiece of patient sabotage. Sarkin reinforcements detected approaching from their outer colonies, Rise announced. Right on schedule, Chen said. Deploy the minefield along their approach vectors and prepare the ambush fleet. As she spoke, hundreds of stealth mines activated in the space lanes, their sensors locked onto the unique signature of Sarkin warp drives. When the reinforcement fleet arrived, they would find a deadly welcome. On Earth, James Rodriguez stood at the entrance of the resistance bunker, watching as his fighters prepared for battle. After 3 years of hiding and gathering intelligence, they would finally strike. All teams report ready, Major, Diaz said, approaching with an assault rifle. Across the globe, similar scenes played out as resistance cells prepared to rise up. The Sarkin garrison had been reduced by 60%, most of their ships pulled to defend their homeworld. "Remember our priority targets," Rodriguez reminded his troops. "Communication hubs, command centers, and power facilities. We need to cut off their ability to coordinate." Above Sarka Prime, Admiral Vector's flagship Dominion shuddered under concentrated human fire. Emergency alarms wailed as systems failed throughout the vessel. "Shields at 12%, reported his weapons officer, voice tight with panic. "Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Vector gripped the command rail as another impact rocked the ship. How had it come to this? The humans they'd faced at Earth had seemed so conventional. These forces moved with precision he'd never witnessed, using technology that should have taken decades to develop. "Admiral," his communications officer called. "We're receiving a transmission from the human flagship. They're requesting our surrender." Vector straightened his posture. A Sarkin admiral did not surrender. "Ignore it. Divert all auxiliary power to weapons. Target their command ship." "Sir," the tactical officer protested, "their shields are impenetrable to our—" "Do it," Vector roared. The Dominion's remaining weapons fired in a desperate salvo. The energy beams struck the Phoenix's shields, which shimmered briefly but held firm. The response was immediate. Precision fire from the human flagship targeted the Dominion's engine core. Explosions cascaded throughout the mighty vessel as systems overloaded. "Abandon ship," Vector ordered, his voice hollow. "All personnel to escape pods." As the Imperial fleet collapsed around them, Sarkin escape pods launched by the hundreds. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Admiral Chen watched the scene with grim satisfaction. "Signal from Sarka Prime. Admiral," Rise reported. "The Imperial Council is requesting terms." Chen nodded slowly. "Tell them we accept their surrender. Unconditional. Then inform Earth Command that Operation Reckoning is complete." Later, standing before the defeated Imperial Council, Admiral Chen delivered humanity's terms. Earth would remain independent. The Sarkin Empire would withdraw from all human colonies. Reparations would be paid for the damage inflicted during their occupation. "You should know," Chen told them, "we could have destroyed your homeworld entirely. We chose not to. Remember that when you consider our mercy a weakness." As she turned to leave, the High Counselor spoke. How did you accomplish this in just 3 years?" Chen paused at the doorway, considering the question. "You saw what you expected to see," she said finally. "You believed us primitive, predictable. You thought our technology inferior, our tactics conventional. You mistook our strategic withdrawal for defeat." She smiled thinly. "Never underestimate a species that went from horse-drawn carriages to landing on their moon within a single lifetime. You thought the war was over when you took Earth. For us, it had only just begun." In the years that followed, a new balance of power emerged in the galaxy. The Sarkin Empire, once the dominant force across 12 star systems, became just one power among many. Humanity expanded thoughtfully, establishing colonies and diplomatic relations with other species. But they never forgot the lesson learned during the Sarkin War. In a hostile universe, peace came through strength, and the legend grew among the stars of the species that sacrificed their homeworld in a grand strategic gambit, only to return with overwhelming force. They thought the war was over, until humanity showed up and changed everything.